SEC Media recap. Got to get Coop's thoughts on all of this here on the Sooner or Later Sports Show, presented by Insert Blank. That's Coop. I'm Jay. Thanks for being up here on the YouTube channel and listening wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to while you're here. Please wipe your feet, like, subscribe, rate, review, and give us 5 stars. You don't think we deserve it? Go ahead and give us 5 anyway and gift it. So on today's episode of the Sooner or Later Sports Show, presented by Insert Blank, me and Coop's got a lot to talk about, like the SEC Media Days, and the media poll came out, plus the all-conference teams. We're also going to dive into a few other topics like, stuff. And we'll probably wrap things up with, can the Sooners make a title run, as well as why the Bluechip ratio says we can't. Coop, happy Sunday, my man. How you doing?
Doing good. It's we've got to that spot. I think I said in our Discord, it feels like August 30th, 31st is like 11 billion days away because it's just hot outside. There's nothing, just hot. It's like the back end of July, just hot. And so, but I'm having a good Sunday. How about you? What's your Sunday feel like?
Sunday's been going good, man. Just prepping content. I'm traveling this week, so I want to get some stuff out and ahead before I am basically disappearing for a few days. But, a lot of great stuff came out of last week's SEC Media Day. I'm still recovering from sleep. It was a very, very, very busy week. If you didn't check it out, me and John did a lot of stuff over on Locked On Sooners. I got to do some absurdly lucky interviews from Richard Johnson from CBS Sports, Jordan Rogers from ESPN, Jim Nagy popped up. And I mentioned it in the video, one of the videos I did of the recaps, but I kind of give some of y'all the story that haven't got to check it out yet. I don't know how it happened, but I somehow got lucky for him to pull up. So me and John's at the table. So our table's all locked on, just podcasts in general. And it's Oklahoma Day. And me and John's hanging out, prepping and waiting for BV to go up there. We had finished our interview with Robert Spears Jennings. And so we're like, all right, let's get stuff together, go downstairs, listen to BV do his intro. Because we did the RSJ interview like an hour before they were actually going out there. Mike Houck, shout out to him, the guy over at the SID over at OU, shot us a message and said, yeah, we're going to let you interview him. We'll do it early close to the holding room. Cool. Got that done, Coop. Went back to the table, chilled, and we look up. And Jim Nagy's walking around. I'm just like, I didn't realize he was in town, but it makes sense,
Yeah.
SEC Media Day. So, I was like, okay, he came with the team or whatnot. And so he's walking around. Our table is right next to Jay Crane and the folks from Crane & Co. So we're sitting right next to them. And he's headed over to them to do an interview as he knows them. And then... So John gets up, shakes his hands, and just introduces himself or whatnot. Introduces both. He's like, hey, we just want to introduce ourselves. We'll probably see you around. If you have time, we'd love to talk with you. If not, no worries. And he's like, I'll come back around. And I'm like, sure you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure you are. Appreciate it, though. Appreciate the niceness, right? Yeah. The nice gesture and everything. So he says this. And I'm like, yeah. So, I sit around there. He chit chats with, I think, Stoya and I think it was Eddie. I can't remember. It was either Eddie or Colton Sully. Somebody, a few people were talking to him. And so he chit chats with them. And he's like, yeah, I got to go do a couple hits and I'll come back over here. And again, in my mind, I'm like, you ain't coming back over here. Like, all right. So I sit around for a bit. I just have to wait. And I'm like, all right, BV's about to start. I'll give it 10 minutes and I'll go down there. Because we knew BV was going to go for a while. It wasn't a situation where we expected BV to not, BV, I think he was on a longer.
BV gonna BV.
Exactly. And, I appreciate it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go downstairs. So I went downstairs, sat next to John, got the last 10 minutes of BV talking, plus the questions and stuff. So I'm sitting there listening and everything. And then he finishes, they disperse, and he's like, we got about 10 minutes before the players come into the pods and sit. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'll go upstairs, get some stuff, and come back. Dog, I go up there, I sit, and one of the other guys out of the whole group of people he says he's going to come back to, he's sitting right by me doing his interview. I'm like, oh, shoot, he came back. I set up real quick just in case. Soon as he's done, he walks over to me, and he goes to my seat and says, this is where I sit. And I'm like,
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, is this where I sit?
Yeah. This is where I sit. I mean, yes, that's where you sit. And I was just awkward as hell. And I was like, I was not prepared for that. But it was cool to see that, he actually came back and chopped it up with me. And so the interview was great. We'll talk about that in a minute because that's, of course, a major topic there. But, Coop, as you went through some of the stuff that you saw coming down, talk to me. What did you see? What jumped out to you? What quotes got your attention?
There's a lot of quotes, around asking R. Mason, Robert Spears, Jennings, kind of about their tour in season 1 around different stadiums. A lot of LSU questions. How was that? What are people going to expect to see when they go to Norman? And so, I think that it was a really really good set of questions around, just your experience and, how you found that thing in season 1. What you're going to get when you go to Norman was another great one because it's funny when you listen to R. Mason. He kept on talking about a lot of AC/DC and a lot of rock and roll music, and so it's, some of those quotes were pretty funny. It seemed like the Mateer hype is starting to reach a national scale, and it's pretty crazy. Just the amount of people. It looked like there was the Arch Manning going up to Paul Feinbaum. That was a pretty funny exchange. Paul had a little fanboy on him, and then Mateer hops in and is like acts like he's going to jump right up on the set. And then thought better of it, or I don't know if people behind the camera were, going crazy, like, don't do it. But he, circled back around, Feinbaum, and Feinbaum, he had a back and forth with him, for a few seconds there. And so a lot of good people wanting to kind of learn a little bit more about John Mateer. I like some of the questions that, went towards our Mason, RSJ. It seems like they did a really, really good job, not taking some bait questions, on slamming the offense from last year. There was questions about Jackson Arnold coming back and playing, and so the guys were trained really, really well. R. Mason looked pretty stacked, but I mean RSJ, that dude just looks, like he was about to bust out the seams of of his tailored suit. And so yeah, there's a lot of good stuff there. BV seemed to talk about the relationship with him and Jim Nagy, in a better light in front of, I guess, all of the world. We see a lot of that around here, but really alleviated a couple of the the wonders of who's taking marching orders from who, and more let them know it's more of a collaboration. So it seemed pretty good. Didn't seem like there was much bulletin board material. The guys were, like I said, were trained up pretty well. But there's a little bit of a cat that ate the canary type of situation in Mateer. Seems like he wanted to just wanted to really, really say a lot more than he did. It seemed a lot of confidence. People just want to get in here and get to going.
Yeah, so start off with BV. I liked how he opened, I liked how he opened with talking about the snaps that we had from young players.
Young snaps, yeah.
That's 2 years in a row, Coop, right?
Yeah.
That we're playing a lot of the younger players, a lot more snaps than we probably even anticipated. And I remember when it was Miguel Chavez had dropped he had dropped the the stat that we had played the most, like freshmen, redshirt freshmen, and sophomores, to in a season in 2023. So we played a lot of young players, and then this year was very much similar to that, which you could tell. You could tell a lot of the youth was there. You could tell a lot of youth in the way people were playing, while at the same time, it's pretty exciting to see that we're able to play young players and be comfortable with it. I mean, we know how bad last year was, but the fact that you were able to do that with, that with a lot of young players in that defense, be able to do that, it's a pretty darn good thing. And I did like that BV was, pretty complimentary of, Jackson and others. Like you said, the other players did something similar. I like the fact that they handled it with a lot of grace. Yeah. They didn't have to go out there and take shots. They felt no need to, because why? Like what value do you bring?
Yeah, there's nothing good about that.
There's nothing good about being petty in that capacity. Just go out there, do what you need to do. Thank him for his service and continue to, move forward. But the young players, Coop, I think that was probably the one thing that jumped out to me the most.
Yeah.
A lot. That's a lot more. I didn't expect that many snaps. Real talk.
Yeah. And, I've gone back here the past couple weeks and rewatched a lot of the games. And it was crazy. Just, I was watching the Alabama game yesterday and watched the Texas and Alabama game yesterday, and some of the the stats towards the end of the year. OU was in the top 10 in yards per rush given up, and obviously they had old boy in the hurt locker, Jalen Milroe, and then but that defense just continued to show, and it's crazy just to look at. There was one point where I think he was talking about the Alabama game, and you looked out and there were 9 freshmen on the field. And so, you look at that and you're just like, well, I mean, that's only great experience. And if you can't, I mean, obviously nobody wants to go through a season like we just went through last year with the injuries and with the rotations, 9 different starting offensive linemen. I don't even know how many different combinations played at one point. And
I think it was up to 10 out of the 13 games. You had some sort of a different configuration. Is my understanding, but yeah.
And it was sad. At one point, Brennan Thompson goes down, and even the commentators were like, "Oh my God, not another wide receiver injury." Like, how many of these things? I watched the Ole Miss game, middle of the week, pretty late, and it was crazy how they were talking about with their I think it was Wells was out, and it was just nuts how they were like, how much does it affect your team when your, number one wide receiver goes down? And, I know you fans were like, I mean, give us a break. What about your top 6? And, there were no wide receivers in that game that, I mean, I guess are slated to start at this point this year. And so, it's the young players playing last year. If you can't get to blowouts, at least there's a silver lining in the fact that you had a lot of those guys, going up against the best of the best in the SEC. And now there is a new year coming, and anything that's been done before this first snap of snap one it's only going to count towards experience. And because your record last year didn't mean anything, and that's why you play the game.
5 new coaches, Coop. Arbuckle, Kuzieski, of course, the county coach, Kevin Wilson, and then, of course, your 2 linebacker coaches in Dreiling as well as Goodwin. I have a question here as we stay here with Brent Venables, because this question was asked a lot, and I want to record something on this and talk about this. Shout out to our guy, Red Dirt Sports, in here. Red is in here. He has tell all of you to get in the water. Get in the water. Because the dude is sold on this team. So go ahead and believe him when he says this. He's probably the most not only connected, but also cautiously optimistic people that I know. He does not gas anything up, but he's been saying, get in the water. I'm getting in the water, buddy. I'm in there. But question for you, Coop. This has been asked of BV like crazy, and I'm trying to figure this out. It's everyone's asking him and players about him now calling the defense. He's going to go do something that he didn't do before, which is be the quote unquote defensive coordinator while also the head coach. While at the same time, this isn't the first time this has ever happened. No. I ask you this, Coop. First off, what side of the ball do you feel like is the most important side of the ball? Is it the offense or the defense?
I mean, it's got to be the defense. Defense sets the tone. Your defense, if your defense is good, then you take away the game plan of the offense. And, I mean, with the complementary football is always the right answer. But when your defense can go out and set the tone, you know, it gives the ball back, to where your offense can go and execute its game plan, you know, on your own side. So if you knock the opposing team's offense off their game plan and you get a chance to set up your offense for their full, onslaught of plans, then that's where you're going to run.
And I could totally agree with you there. I feel like for myself, I think defense as well as important is a little bit more important. But I'm also, what we're seeing based upon everyone's actions is offense is the most important side of the ball. And I say that because what you typically see is that whenever someone gets hired, they're typically, most schools, teams, NFL or in college, are typically hiring more of the quote unquote offensive geniuses, the ones that are figuring out how to get past these defenses, which granted, we're seeing that more and more. And I think it's funny that a lot of people are saying, oh, even though a lot of people are questioning BV calling the plays on defense, when we have dudes that call the offensive plays all the time, like I don't understand. Like it's say, oh, he must be failing because now he needs to call his defense. No, he's really good at it. That's something that he's been very, very good at in his entire career. That's similar to why you have your offensive guys. You have, like, most recently, Lane Kiffin has given up the play calling duties. I think it was like a year ago he did. But Clark Lee over at Vanderbilt ran his defense last year, but he just gave it up to one of his internal guys. I actually expect BV to do something similar, but that's for another conversation. But Billy Napier still runs the offenses at Florida. Josh Heupel calls the offense at Tennessee. Sark calls the offense at Texas. Right? Jimbo Fisher, when he was there at A&M, it's not a good example, but at the same time, he was calling plays there. Right? But it's fascinating how very common it is on the offensive side of the ball, and no one truly blinks an eye much. But when you hear about a defensive guy doing it, people get, like, nervous. So it makes me feel like even though teams hire more offensive dudes because they're looking for people to outdo a defense, they think defense is more important. It's something that requires someone to be fully dedicated to in order to be successful. Thought that's a fascinating concept as everyone was asking BV about calling the defense this season.
And I liked his response too, because he said, he went out there and it's no hidden secret that Jim Knowles was his first choice. And then when that first choice went away, he was his second choice. And in watching some of and God bless the folks who put all the games out on YouTube, because I kind of just happened into the 2008 Texas Tech game. And guess who was calling the defense against that high-flying, just disruptive team that just came off of a win versus Texas? It was Brent Venables. Brent Venables was the defensive coordinator. They absolutely stifled that entire Texas Tech offense that day. And that set you up. And so I think that it is, we've seen the backside of it to where your offense is really good and the defense is just an absolute sieve. And we've now seen what happens when your defense is good and your offense is just, absolutely just stagnant as all can get out. You got to have the complementary football. And with Brent Venables able to go out there and say, hey, listen, I was my second choice for the defense. And I don't think that this is going to be a long-term solution. I bet that, Brent Venables will slowly start handing things over. But I think that with how many head coaches on the staff, or how many coaches on the staff have play calling and head coaching duties now, you've got so many guys across the board. I mean, that's what made Nick Saban, great, is he would go out and he'd get these guys on these reclamation projects and bring them in They knew how to run stuff. They knew what would happen, and they would let let Saban know what their thoughts were. And I mean that's the reclamation project for Steve Sarkisian, was getting to Alabama, going in there, getting trusted with that offense, calling a good offense to go with a good defense. So you have to if you have any type of hope that you're going to go out and do the things that this team has plans for. You got to have, a respectable offense and a respectable defense.
And it's crazy you say that, going back to that 2008 game, they knocked off the number one team in the country, Texas, at the time, knocked them off 39-33, beat Oklahoma State, who was number 9 in the country at the time, 56-20, and then lost to Oklahoma right afterwards. And the funny thing about that is when you look at their entire breakdown on the season, they scored at minimum 35 points in every single game except for against Oklahoma.
And let's be honest, that was, I want to say that it was, I'm check my math here, 35-3 at halftime.
Yes,
so
yes, it was. No, I'm sorry, you were close, but not correct. It was 42-7 at the half.
Okay, for Texas Tech.
Yes, they had 7 points. They scored a touchdown in the second quarter.
So the goal, I mean, the point remains. I mean, you look at
it was 35-7 in the second quarter though, because Oklahoma was blasting their tail in that game. I'm looking at the box score now because I'm cracking up at it.
But regardless, you've got all these guys calling these plays, for their team on the offensive side, and you've got the the scarecrow offensive coordinator who is it by name. But I promise you, it's you want to have faith in one side of the ball. Then I want to say that, like, the defense, if you need a stop, and if you need to go out and actually make that happen, and I know that somebody's in here chirping, but Ben Arbuckle was a guy who was going somewhere big this season, and that was there was talks in that early. That was one of the I don't know for sure if Arbuckle was the number 1 or number 2, but he sure as hell wasn't number 5th option. And nope. A lot of the reason why is you wanted to bring somebody who was going to be able to bring some continuation. And then that's one of the things that John Mateer talked about this weekend was, he didn't have to come in and learn a new offense. Like, he was going to have to come in and learn a new offense if he went to a North Carolina or if he went somewhere else. But having that continuation with Arbuckle, having that continuation, and I hate trying to even say his name, the quarterback coach. That's
Coos. Coach Coos.
Coach
Coos is what they call him.
So that is a big thing. Is you're going to want to go in and install this offense, and if you've got multiple people who are out there able to do it, I heard in the spring that a lot of the defense was pretty frustrated because the offense was actually clicking, and so when your offense comes in, that's only going to make the defense even better because, the defense, you got to give it up to them last year for doing as well as they did, going up against, almost nothing all season long in practice. Mm-hmm. And so their best, practice came on Saturdays. And so you've got John Mateer, who is still yet
Before
to be
you
seen.
get to that, yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. It is yet to be seen. But again, and we'll talk about him and his comments in a second, but I think it's fascinating just the way everybody's talking about BV running the defense. I think that it makes me laugh because so many people do it on the other side of the ball, and it's okay. And I guess because on offense you're controlling the pace of the game more. I'm guessing that's what everybody thinks. The timeouts need to be a little bit smarter and all of that. But as it was mentioned in the comment section, Kevin Wilson's most likely your offensive head coach, since you can have analysts on the field now and actually let them participate. That was one of the rules that changed when all of the NIL stuff went down. And so if Kevin Wilson's working with Arbuckle on making sure that the offense is flowing not only properly, but also make sure that timeouts are called properly and that focus is there so BV can do, all the defense stuff while still being the CEO. Some coaches are heading back into that. Like I said, Clark Lee, he just recently promoted one of his defensive assistants up to DC now after he ran it last year, and you saw how good Vanderbilt was. That was a massive turnaround because not only was the offense solid, the defense was really solid as well.
Yeah.
As well, getting Diego Pavia and his coach in Tim Beck. He didn't have to. He let Beck do his thing, and now he can CEO it and really help with making sure everything's organized. So that was a smart move on his part, which I think Vanderbilt's going to probably be a sleeper. We'll do a SEC preview of who we think's going to be where later, but let's talk some of the player comments or whatnot. Thank y'all for pulling up. Hit the like button. New to the channel, subscribe, rate, review. Give us 5. Insert ad here in the future when the season starts. But Coop. So, of course, Material is the talk of the town, but I really liked the Robert Spears Jennings quote that we saw from him when they asked him about the schedule. And he said, when he said this, I was a little shocked hearing it because it was at the pods or whatnot. And they asked him basically, first off, what they're doing. And he said this to me and John as well. Their focus on defense is being better at communicating. Didn't feel like it was up to snuff last year, but that's their focus because a quiet defense is a dead defense. That was quote number 1 I loved out of him. So he said, so this year we're emphasizing communication. But the second one, though, they asked him about the toughness of the schedule. And he was like, I don't see it as tough. I see them as money games. Scouts are going to be there. Agents are going to be there. Everybody's going to be watching. Those are the games going to be on
Very
TV.
much.
People are going to be paying attention to. So this is an opportunity instead. So you look at this as more of an opportunity than anything. And when he said that, I was like, oh my gosh, that dude gets it. And he's becoming one of the vocal leaders there. What you think about RSJ and his rounds?
You know, that's that also. I'm glad you brought that up because Robert Spears, obviously a Tulsa kid. That's we got to love the Tulsa boys, but not only has that not been really requested of him up to this point, like he's got to learn from Billy Bowman, he's got to learn from Danny, he got to learn from Ethan, and there's different leadership styles. When we go back to the quarterbacks, when you go from Baker to Kyler, that's 2 different leaderships. And then going right over to Hurts, that's a different set of leadership. You get in a Rattler, and that's completely different. Caleb Williams, completely different. DG, it's like every single. So he, in his time, he's been able to see a lot of really, a variety of leadership styles. And you got to think, number one, I mean, his hard work, that's there. That's going to be there. And he has been an afterthought in a lot of people's perception, to this point, because the dude just goes out and make plays. Like that's just one of the things that he continues to do. In watching some of these games over again, there's times to where you see somebody slide out, and then all of a sudden RSJ comes out and makes a play, and you're like, I forget about him all the time. And so he's got the production there. He's got, obviously, the skill set is phenomenal. And when you have the defense that this team is going to have, it allows you just to play within yourself, do what you're going to do. And he's going to be able to, focus in on what he's doing, focus in on his play. But then also, get in. And it's not just being loud and being vocal and, rawing everybody up. Sometimes it's picking somebody up. Sometimes it's grabbing somebody and saying, hey, don't, let that one go. Like, we need you now here. And those are the things that people are going to be paying attention to. On your comments about him saying the schedule is just money games. I mean, yeah, you look at it as an opportunity. And if the goal is get to the league, then you want to put up good film against good teams. And it's going to be, much better than, throwing out, I saw a stat, about a specific, X conference of ours. And there were 2 national championships, both in like the 90s, I think. That was the last. There's only 2 national championships in the history of that conference right now.
Good Lord.
When when we left, I said it was the Bless Your Heart conference. Because I think that when you go into these games, week in, week out, typically they'll pick out impact players, 2 on this side of the ball, 2 on this side of the ball. It's more than that every single week, when you have the schedule that we have, because, you're looking at some of the top draft picks week in and week out, who are going to be in the NFL draft this coming April, are going to be coming from those games. When you're lining up against a Texas, when you're lining up against an Ole Miss and LSU, those things are going to happen.
Yeah, and that's the best part is him pointing out how they're an opportunity just made me say, you get it, dog. You get it, get everything. So that's the plus. Moving on from there, then you go into R. Mason Thomas, and really the thing he said he needs to focus on is going to be setting the edge, run, stopping. And I loved how he pointed that out, getting his weight up, getting stronger, maintaining his speed, and making sure that he's stopping the run. I was like, well, okay, you get it. You understand the things that you need to do to help with that. You finished with 9 sacks last season, and that's that's a lot. 6 of those coming in SEC play. So you didn't, stat pad and in non-con, which a lot of teams, and players do. You got yours in actual SEC plays when you got the bulk of your stuff. So for him, that's pretty big. I actually like that. And then they both talked about John Mateer, and we'll talk about him next. What you think about R. Mason? Anything jump out with you with him?
I
outside of the grease shoes.
Yeah, the grease shoes are pretty dope. He didn't remember the creator, so hopefully he hooked that guy up with some love at some point. But I'll say that when R. Mason was out there, it was just immediately just relevant that the guy's just ready to get on the field like that. Yeah. It just seems like that's all that he wants to do is to get out there and be on the field, and this guy takes it serious. And when you have people who take things serious and they're not just all about talk, they want to get out there and do stuff. Those are guys that you want to watch, because he could have said, I was, in the top of the SEC in sacks, top of the nation in sacks. He saw a weakness in his game, and he brought up the weakness. He did a little 8 Mile Eminem style right there, right? It's, add in a few LBs, want to be better at setting the run, because he caused all kinds of havoc. And, I would say that last year didn't get an exceptional amount of help from the other side. The middle of the defense was really, really good, but the edge part, it was R. Mason and then a bunch of, happy helpers. And so I think that this year he's going to get a lot more one-on-ones. But, the thing that's going to get him higher in the league is how well do you stop the run? Because even though the running backs are, not super valued like they used to be, and, that's why nobody's getting too stoked about, running back recruiting, new running backs to your NFL franchise, anything like that. You see that opportunity of, this defense is going to, with the complementary offense, the defense is going to be putting teams in more of a spot. That was the clear thing for the Alabama game. A lot of R. Mason's production is when it was a dead set, we know that they're passing the ball, R. Mason showed up all the time. And it wasn't always getting there. It was forcing pressure, forcing up into somebody else, forcing somebody into a bad read, a bad coverage. And, so I think that that's good. Him wanting to point out the things that he needs to get better at, I'm all for that, because this year, I think that there is going to be a lot more explosion on the other side too.
And then they both talked about, of course, our guy, John Mateer, said he's funny, said that he does a really good job of leading, very vocal. But they all said that he's funny. They both smiled whenever he was mentioned, which I thought was pretty funny. How'd you feel about Mateer's comments? Of course, everyone's comparing to Baker, and he says, he appreciates, this high praise. He's focused on being him and competing. What'd you think about that? Because I know Baker Mayfield just recently made some comments about him as well.
Yeah, in Baker's football camp was this weekend, but he got a little Goodfellas there. He reminded me of Joe Pesci when he says, "What do you mean funny?" He's like, "Hey, I'm just busting your balls, whatever." But when they kept on saying him, they kept on bringing it up, and it seems like he wanted to go take that out. But if you guys haven't seen, he was talking about on the plane, to the SEC media days. They did some, and I shared it with you. They were doing some quick hitters with Jim Nagy. Asking him a bunch of questions. Do you like the mountain? What's your screen time? What's your favorite movie? And he is a guy that it seems like off on the side, he's all about the team. He wants to be entertaining. He wants to put on a show, and that does sound like a lot of really great quarterbacks want to put on the show, want to be want the attention, and so if the production follows with that. this is going to be somebody that people are going to love as a fan, and then everybody else is going to hate because, people are going to be drawn to him. He has production. He just, came off of a 44 touchdown campaign. And so that question of can it happen in the SEC, that's the question around him is, can you do these things in the SEC? Can you bring that production here? And, everybody points towards Cam Ward, him going on the ACC and just lighting it up and really, being the driving factor behind that team. And so if that production follows, then he's going to be one of those polarizing figures in the SEC and across the country.
Exactly. He's got the opportunity to do that. So, all right, let's talk about the preseason All-SEC voting. Before we do that, thank y'all for pulling up. Hit that like button if you're new to the channel. Subscribe, rate, review, give us 5. Feel free to drop your questions in the comments. We will address those at the end of the show. I've been starring some as they come in, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But preseason All-SEC, as well as where the media at Oklahoma set. So first off, preseason All-SEC listing. You got R. Mason as well as Jaden Ott at the second team, and then Ben Anderson third team. He's been always raved about as the long snapper or whatnot. But I thought it was interesting, and this is what we actually expected, that Ott was going to start to get more and more attention. And it appears that the media that was there at SEC Media Days, they're all very high. I know the ESPN guys, when I was chatting with them about it, they're like, dog, they think y'all got the most explosive back. Y'all may have the best back in the SEC. We just need to see him healthy. You got to see him healthy. If he's healthy, he's probably the best one. I was like, fair point.
Yeah.
What you think? Who do you think got snubbed?
Altogether, you just go through here, and when you're looking through the team, and I've got up here on the other screen, you look through the team, and you got some crazy names in here. I think that it's going to be down to record. Right now, Lenora Sellers as the number one. I think that John Mateer, a lot of people are in that spot of, hey, listen, we're going to say, prove it before we do anything. And let's be honest, this preseason, this is talk season. This is just the opportunity for them to talk. And you're going to want to be in the postseason. And that's the teams that you're going to want to be on. Plus, you also want to get the records, right? So, off OU, I'd like to see, I think, Kip Lewis, Jaden Jackson, obviously coming in as, a freshman All-American last year. He's only going to be better. Eli is a guy who I thought you might see in there also. I know that the way that they do the defensive backs, it's kind of 4 guys. There's a rotation, safety, and then just pure corners.
The voting is you pick 8 dudes on 8 DBs, period, and it's all like combination of same D line. It's you pick just defensive linemen, it's edges and D linemen together, and then the secondary is basically just all DBs, so it includes safeties or whatnot. So yeah, it's quirky the way it's done, but it's just all encompassing. You pick 8 people and that's it.
Yeah. So, happy for R. Mason. As far as like what he can do, but I do. I think that this is, we were talking about superhero movies earlier today. And a lot of superhero movies, they need the cast members who are going to be the complementary cast members to go along with some of these stars. And, there's a lot of talk around, it's crazy because, out of one side of my mouth, I say it's like the, preseason, you need some of the preseason recognition in order to, loft yourself up into some of the national awards, conversations, because a lot of time guys are going to go back and, a lot of these people don't watch the games. They watch the box scores and they see those portions. So if you're a stat stuffer, you're going to get a lot more recognition than someone who makes effective plays, play in and play out. But yeah, Jaden Ott. Let's dive into Ott because this is a guy who Jim Nagy had eyeballs on before he even came to Oklahoma. And that was a big get for him, is because they needed, we have needed a difference maker because, since Kennedy Brooks, Eric Gray had himself one good year when he was the offense, and that was it. But then, Kennedy Brooks was the last guy that, you could just, really feel like he was going to, you knew what you were getting out of Kennedy Brooks. And so I think that, a lot of people were excited about Xavier Robinson and coming into the season, but if Ott can, be healthy, that's a guy who is, a first round, second round type of a running back. He's a guy who can do it all. He can block. He can, catch out of the backfield, and he can run the rock. So, he is a guy that a lot of people are going to have eyeballs on this season.
He's one that's going to be watched hardcore this year.
Yeah.
He's one that a lot of people care about, wanting to see what he turns into, just because of the promise you saw as a freshman and as a sophomore.
Yeah.
2,100 yards or whatnot in those first 2 seasons. You're like, oh, he's going to be another one of the Cal running backs. Remember, Cal be producing some backs. From J.J. Arrington to Marshawn Lynch. That we're not going to pretend like Cal doesn't put backs out. That's what Cal's known for doing, find them California running backs and throw them on the field. They all seem to be really, really good. But I'm interested to see the health of Ott or whatnot. R. Mason being second team, that was expected. There's a lot of really good defensive linemen in the SEC this season. I was surprised about Robert Spears Jennings not getting looked at. He was one of the higher graded guys in the SEC last year as a safety. So I was actually thinking that if anybody was probably going to get looked at, it was going to be him. So I'm going to be honest, that was pretty much a shocker to me. I was like, oh, okay. So that's what we're doing. All right.
Yeah, he's
wrong.
He's going to be in a good rotation of safeties, between him and Hardy. You've got Peyton Bowen, Boganowski. There's going to be a lot of different guys out there who are going to be able to do it. And so, you don't have a guy. I think that Billy Bowman was another one. He never came off the field last year, and you could see it sometimes. He would get tired, and he would, have one of those moments. But I think that that's going to be one thing that when you have you're 4 deep, and you even got a lot of faith in some of the young pups. There's a lot of safeties, in this conference who are going to be put to the test. I bet that there's going to be a good amount of running. The rushing yards by I guess running backs in general over the past couple of years in the SEC has been relatively low because there's been a little bit more high flying attacks. And so I think with so many new quarterbacks coming in, that's something that you're going to see. And so some of the safety numbers may be elevated a little bit more. And also when that comes is what happens is you got to be able to pivot pretty quick when it's play action. So, the best safeties in this league are going to be the ones that are going to be able to, be a supporter in the running game, but then also get into coverage and, not give up any of these big bombs down the field.
That's a fair point. Let me know what y'all think. Hop in the comments. Definitely give us your thoughts. Who you think got snubbed? Who you think probably should have gotten a much bigger look? Definitely want to hear from y'all on that. Yeah, I know y'all arguing with that individual. I thank him for pulling up because all he does is make everybody engage with us. So just, if you're smart, you know exactly what the point is, and just, we don't acknowledge losers. So we move forward on from that. Next one. Preseason poll was interesting to me, though, Coop. So after you did the whole preseason poll, you have, I actually agree with you, Sooner Cowboy. Kip probably should have gotten a lot more recognition on there, but, yeah. So, that's a crazy one. Right. And, Chuck, you're right. Nagy was me when I chatted with Nagy about it, too. You mentioned that Ott is healthy. And that's the exciting part. And his offensive line's going to be real good. Really good. Just like old school. But yeah. preseason poll, and it's funny because you're hearing the national, a lot of the media at the SEC, everybody's intrigued by Oklahoma. They want to see the bounce back. They want to see if the bounce back actually happens. And, granted, I totally get it because the bounce back is the most important thing. We want to see if the team, fixes everything it needs to fix. Well, here we are. And when they did the polling, Oklahoma set at number 10. But they got 3 votes to win the conference. What you think about that?
Hey, you're right. You're right where you want to be, I guess. It is a show me year. You got to get out there and do it. This will be Oklahoma's going to be a team that after 5 or 6 games, people are going to know. All right, so what are we looking at? Because you go out and you throw the offense, and that's what it is. It's does the offensive line, can they be better, and can the weapons around Mateer allow them to have an identity on offense? And it's that. And I'm just going to go off of looking at production because there's no. John Mateer has done it in a lower conference. He went out and he put the numbers up. He played the teams out in front of him. That was Arbuckle, and that was every single bit about it. You got to show up, and you got to do what it's going to, what you can. I think that the offensive line, it's going to be the basic situation as it was last year, is if the offensive line can go out there and, be a formidable crew, then this team is going to be hell to deal with, because I think that the way the schedule breaks out is very, very, very favorable where the buys are. Getting LSU at home at the end of the season, that game could mean a lot, for the conference. And so you also got to be healthy. And listen, if you are one of the people who says, we just got to stay healthy this year, we can't have a repeat of last year, that's never been a situation, in this team. I mean, I guess you could say maybe the 2009 season when, Bradford goes down against BYU, Gresham gets hurt, you have the Landry Jones era begin. That's maybe the last time. So, I mean, what are we saying? In 25 years, you've had 2 seasons like that. This is going to be a year. This is going to be a year to where if you have the health around it, it's going to be, does the offensive line progress? And that none of the offensive line, hopium, coming from us is unfounded. We talk to a lot of people, and a lot of people are very excited about what this offensive line is going to be. And that's a situation where, you guys got like Ryan Foje and, Fasusi. Those guys are pushing folks. You got Jacob Sexton up over 330. You saw Troy Everett. Looks like he is absolutely stacked. So I think that this offensive line knows that this is a year for them to prove it, and they're going to go out and do it. And when your coaching staff is all on the same page, it's going to be really nice, because that's another thing we're hearing is, with Latrell, God bless him and everything he does going forward, he just wasn't good at this. And so there's everybody's on the same page when it comes from the OC staff, the quarterbacks, wide receivers, the offensive line. All these coaches are all getting to get along, and you're going to see that.
Yep. You got a lot of good stuff building this year, and that's probably the thing that puts a big time smile on my face. That's all you need is for everything to just start working out together. And and of course injuries is probably the biggest one, but if everything just falls into place, barring all of those, I always talk about, I think we are solid. Les, thank you so much for the $10. We appreciate super chat. If you want to get an immediate response, drop a super chat, support the channel. We will be healthy. We will have a great year. Enjoy, you guys. We appreciate you, Les Wilson. We appreciate you. And we enjoy you being here and fighting with everybody in the comment section. Y'all be out there getting it. I love it. I love the battle in there. We're going to make sure that we do what we can to make sure that you all have a place to go and get into those fights. So
Did you Did you hear Brent Venables did drop a competitive depth? So if you got your drinks, do it. He dropped a competitive depth in the press conference, and the buzzword has gone away now because I think that is in place. But I was pretty excited to hear him at least drop one of them.
Yeah, that was pretty good to hear him give us one of those. And I was like, oh, okay, there's a we go. He understands that. And, I mean, that even goes in consideration of the, as he talked about, with how many young players we played last year, which is very much helpful. Yeah, you can't beat that. You can't beat that we have a lot of young players and we're playing a lot of young players. And I've said this before, Coop. This is kind of how, to me, BV kind of built this a little backwards instead of forward. Was the players we're playing at youth now should have probably been playing in the second season. That's where we should have been having the players that he wants, that this team wanted. You probably typically want to play a lot of those young and not a couple years back when he first got here, instead of basically refreshing after the 23 season like he did. But hey, what he's building, though, gets you in a direction that can help you to be competitive. And that's what leads us to this next conversation, Coop. Let me say, how do I say this? Good Lord, that is crazy. Anyway, Bluechip ratio. So Bud Elliott over... First, I think y'all pulling up. Hit the like button. New to the channel, subscribe, rate, review. Give us 5. Bud Elliott for CBS Sports, 247 rating site. Every year he puts together a list of the 18 teams that can win a national championship. And the 18 teams, he picked that 18 specifically because no one outside of the 18 has ever made it into the playoffs in the playoff era. Correction. He said 4 of them have, and the 4 that have made it anywhere, they've all gotten blown out. But he's pointed out that when it comes to his blue chip ratio, the blue chip ratio based upon 247's ratings, these teams are the ones that are capable of winning. Last season, Oklahoma was on that list. They were like 74 or something like that, 75. So injuries, of course, is the only reason why you don't get to move forward, because you get hurt. Can't do anything about it, right?
Everybody's off.
Right? Yeah. It's kind of hard to play when you're playing nothing but freshmen. You don't win national championships with all freshmen, basically, and sophomores. No team does it. Usually it's veterans, the older teams. Ohio State's an example of that. Very much older. They lost a lot of players, but they still got their top defensive players. So they should have a really good year this season, and quarterback is critical. But this, though, blue chip ratio, it's kind of crazy, man. So these are the top 18. Here's the first 9. And guess who's number 9 there, Coop?
Oh, yes. This was one of the teams that lost. Washington. I think Washington wasn't on the top of the blue chip. Was it 2 years ago when they lost to Michigan? That might have been one of the teams. And then, but yeah, I mean, this is who you think it is. I mean, this list is going to be the same probably next year. There's not, it is still about the Jimmies and Joes. You got to have the players, especially in key positions, and you also have to have the coaching, and you have to. I mean, let's be honest. There has to be a little bit of luck in here too, because getting through the entire season, somebody gets rolled up on in the second to last week, and if you don't have quality depth behind them, that's tough. But also, you take a starter who is a guy who's headed for the league, and if he tweaks his ankle and he's able to come back 2 weeks later, that's lucky. If it's 6 weeks later, that's unlucky. So, OU being on this one obviously doesn't surprise me. OU's been, recruiting at a high clip for a long time, and this you're going to pick your, most of the playoffs teams are going to be right out of this group.
These are the ones. And as we know, Phil Steele, who makes one of the football Bibles that I read every year and make sure I order, he has Oklahoma as his 9th best team. And actually, let me see something. Because, of course, I have it right in front of me. I keep it with me at all times. This is, one of my favorite things to read through. This is how I keep up with the teams. I look at who's who and try to get an understanding of what. Let me see. He has, as I look at this here, in his top 9, only one team is swapped in and out from what Phil still has in his top 4 preseason top 40 teams. And that's no Penn State's on here. But everybody has Penn State as the number 1 team in the country, which I always think was funny. But Penn State's number 10 on the list. They didn't make top 9, but they're number 10. And in his top 10, Phil still doesn't have LSU, but LSU is one that should be listed on there. But LSU is a top 9 team in the Bluechip ratio. But I thought that was fascinating because it goes all the way down, 54% down to Florida State. Typically, your team that wins it is usually in the 70s. I think it's like 70 and up. The only one in all of them that has won it that has not been in the 70s was Michigan 2 years ago. Michigan was 54 in their Bluechip ratio. And the one thing we know about Michigan is they get a ton of recruits. At least they have over the years. That has kind of changed as of late. They've been winning a lot, spending a lot of that money. But their Bluechip ratio is not as high as you think. They're just overly physical, dude. They get the right dudes to push people around. I think Oklahoma's going that direction as well.
It's I mean, when you see teams like Wisconsin, Penn State, Michigan, those guys, the difference between them and Ohio State just in general is the fact that Ohio State throws some skill out there too. Because those teams up there are always going to get great athletes on the defensive and offensive line. Michigan's always going to have great running backs. They're always going to be able to run the ball. And, with JJ McCarthy, he had a good amount of wide receivers. And what's crazy is there's a lot of Michigan wide receivers in the league. A lot more than some teams who like to run their mouth quite a bit. But there's the skill in all the key spots. Michigan also does really good at tight ends. And so, it does kind of shock me that there's not more, I guess what you would say, there's not more success up there in Michigan. Ohio State has a recent national championship too, but for the longest time, they were kind of the same thing as Oklahoma's getting to, going all the way and then getting dealt by an SEC team was always a thing that Ohio State was having trouble too. And so now with the you got some money to throw around, it's more I guess all is fair now. You throw the money out, you get you get a player here or there. Underwood is going to be a big time player if he can keep the weight down, and you can put some folks around him too. They've got that opportunity out there. There's always going to be the asterisks on Michigan's national championship with the old Spygate situation, and so they're going to want to get back up there. But I mean, you got to have the guys, because let's just go. I mean, if you've got 5 offensive linemen who are just really, really good, and you get into a winner take all type of a game, you can play well as a unit, and you're still going to give up your fair share. And when you're playing guys with, when you're playing guys who are going to be first-round draft picks, second-round draft picks, perennial All-Americans, or not All-Americans, but Pro Bowlers in the NFL, I mean, you're going to have to stack up. And so it's, the only team that you see, you throw a Texas A&M up there, and they continue to have that blue chip piece. You got to also have those guys who are super, super high rated across all the boards, and they want to continue to get better day in and day out, because It makes it. I mean, it makes no difference if you're a 5-star coming out of high school and the moment you step onto a field in college, that gap closed significantly. And if you don't continue to work, you get the whole adage of hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So you got to have the coaching in there, and you got to have the desire from these blue chippers, because if they're not all in and it's not all one mindset, then your rating really doesn't mean anything.
One band, one sound. Yeah. No, no, you're right. It means nothing.
I don't know if I am out or if Jay bounced. I still see a recording here, so drop into the comments if it's just me here working. Topher, give me something in the chat. Let me know if that was Jay who disappeared. And it is Jay that disappeared, but yeah, one of the big things about
that was weird.
Hey, there you go. All right,
that was weird.
I didn't know if it was
me. It was me. It was for some reason it hit me with for some reason it hit me with the do you want to leave? I'm like, why would I want to leave? All I'm doing is showing off something, and then all of a sudden I guess it decided it wanted to close itself. So that was weird. My bad, y'all. I must have clicked the button while I was over here prepping stuff. So let me get back to this, what I was actually talking about. Gotta love tech, right? That's my favorite thing about technology, is that I always got some weird stuff populating. Anyway, back to my whole point on this is a lot of these teams, it's funny when you look at it, how many teams end up with 70 plus on the blue chip ratio piece, and it just still doesn't lead to a championship. Perfect example. I mean, like, look at Oregon, right? Oregon's one, I think they're like consistently always up there, especially over the last, what 10 years, 15 years, right? They've been to a national championship. I think they've actually been to a couple. I know they played Auburn when Cam was there. Didn't they play a second one?
Did they lose to the Florida? Was the Mariota? Was that the Mariota year? Did they?
Yeah, Mariota lost to Florida State too. So they lost to Auburn and they lost to Florida State. So they actually they played. Was it Auburn that year? Wasn't it Auburn that year?
Who did Cardell Jones come in, and is the year that Ohio State lost?
Ohio State won that one when Cardell played,
because they lost quarterback right in the last game, then they lost one in the Big Ten championship, or no, they lost two right at the end. Big Ten championship, I think Cardell Jones came in and went hard as what against Wisconsin. That was like a 70-something game, and then they came out. That was Bama. I think they beat Bama. They beat Bama.
That was a Bama. The Oregon Auburn. They played Auburn. They lost. And they lost 22-19 to Cam Newton. That was the Cam Newton year. That's what that was. The BCS. That was the BCS one actually. When Cam carried that team by himself to win the Natty. But yeah, I thought that was that. Anyway, Oregon is consistently on that number. Is my point. Is that you look at that number there, and it's like Oregon's always up there magically, but they don't have no titles. They have 0 national championships, and Florida State beat Auburn in the title game that year, and that was the BCS Natty. Could have sworn Oregon went another time. I don't know. Oh, they did. They lost to Ohio State. So you're right. Yeah, okay. That was one. That's one I was crazy about. Trying to remember, was it Auburn? Yeah. So you're right. It was Cardell. That Cardell Jones game. That was Oregon. So I was all over the place. My bad, y'all. They beat Florida State in the first round of the CFP. So that's where I completely missed what you were saying. So that's my bad.
Yeah. I mean, but you look at it. I mean, you got to get through your conference first and foremost. I mean, that's been Texas's issue. Texas out-recruited Oklahoma, I would say, since the Stoops era, since 2000, since we're just going through a time. I mean, Texas out-recruited Oklahoma, I would say all but maybe 1 or 2 years. And they had 4 conference championships to show for it. They couldn't get past Oklahoma. And so this is an indicator. This isn't the gospel, though. This is an indicator that you got to have that, because you can't run up there. It's just hard for you to make it through a major conference schedule. And then now making it through the playoffs, you go try to make it to the playoffs. I mean, eventually the talent's going to overwhelm. And it's not Hollywood. You're going to have some of the dudes in there too.
No, that's true, and a very much fair point. You got to have the right players to be able to do it. Now they did do a blue chip ratio that included. I did put your comment on blast. Bricked Up was pretty funny. I thought it was hilarious. I had to put it on there. But I did look at the what's this? The transfer one, because they did it with transfer. So that number that I showed y'all was only high school recruits. Did not include a single transfer, but this is the transfer rate, and Oklahoma is rated at like number 12 if you include transfers, 56%. So they're at that Michigan-ish number there. Them and Clemson with Florida right there above them because of the number of the transfers that they brought in. So I thought that was also interesting. Because, when you really look at it, a lot of your transfers are players that were not rated very high, but they were really good. And then they move up from whatever program they were to, a more elite program in comparison and opportunity to play. So I thought that was really interesting too. It was, thought that was interesting, but it's a good question. Will they lean in the run game? I do believe we will have a heavy run game this year, especially because Mateer's a runner. I mean, he throws very well, but he's a runner too.
And, your running game is going to open up a lot with Mateer. What did he weigh in at? 220? Was it 221 or 225?
Something like that. He's a big boy.
He is, you could tell, when he was standing up next to a couple different guys. I mean, the guy is thicker. He had to put on a little bit of extra muscle because, I don't think that you can really. You may be able to stuff the stats, but I don't think Mateer is going to be running for like 1,000 yards or anything like that. Like I think that, a good spot for him to be is around the 400 yards. He's going to want to take it off, and that's there's difference in designed runs and just scramble drill to where he's getting out and getting out there and going. But I mean, you gotta go back to last year. I made the comment earlier that in the spring, I think the offense was having a lot of success, a lot more than the defense expected for them to have.
Right.
With a brand new offensive system, new quarterback, and everything. And so that's there was success last spring, but it was not a situation to where the defense was getting beat. I think there were a lot of favorable situations that the coaching staff kind of allowed some success to happen, and that's a tough place to go. But I think that with the running game this year, I think that when you have Jaden Ott, John Mateer, you have an Xavier Robinson, and then you still have Taylor Tatum, you still have Javante Barnes. Those are guys who are going to be able to run, and you also you get a chance to have leads, and you're going to be running a lot more.
That's what's most important. If you have a lot more leads, you'll be able to just eat clock, which is critical. Got any questions? Feel free to drop them. Super chats are always looked at first. Thank you for pulling up. Hit the like button. New to the channel, subscribe, rate, review, give us 5. Byron Smith asked the question. Yes, Michigan has done it, but what other team did it too? When I look back on the blue chip ratio, I don't remember seeing anybody that was under 70%, keeping it a buck. Probably the closest one was because I think they started this back when CFP started. So yeah, none of the teams that won the Natty since the college football playoffs has started has won it outside of Michigan with 50-something%. Before that, I think that Auburn team with Cam was probably the only one. Because that team had, I think, one offensive lineman that took some snaps in the NFL, but they didn't really have anybody go to the pros. That offense was literally Cam Newton and the Pips. I can't think of, there's like nobody else that I can think of there. Michigan is the only one that has done it. And again, that was because they are a overly physical squad. They were a squad that would just beat the crap out of everybody. So
yeah, looking through here, I would maybe wonder about the first Clemson national championship. Maybe that might have been one, because at that point they weren't really recruiting like crazy at that point. I have to probably go back and see what
No,
their
that was what year was that? 16.
16.
Let me look at the 2015 class. 2015 Clemson class was top 9. 2014 Clemson class, they were number 9 in the country. In 15, in 14 they were 16th with 10 4-stars in that class. And then we'll go to 13. So we'll do the first 3 classes just to be fair here. They were 15th with 10 more. So
That's still pretty good. I mean, that's still pretty good.
it's still pretty high, right? It's still pretty darn high. But Michigan was up there as well, but they had a lot of 3-stars on their rosters. Clemson was 20 when you go back to 2012, 10 4, 10 3 stars. So, yeah. That's a good question. They may have been one.
Maybe.
They may have. I'd have to go back and count and look through the entire roster and see. But 16 was a big class for them. 1, 5, 11, 4-stars, 8, 3-stars. And that team was really good.
I see the Tebow year of Florida. I mean, back then Florida was absolutely dealing. So I would say that was probably a really good, because I remember that national championship. I mean, I know that OU alone had, 4 first-rounders that year. Tebow went at the end to the Broncos.
I'm sorry.
I still remember where I was. I was sitting next to Al Ashback when that happened. At the bar in Norman, and I remember being pissed. But yeah, I would probably, I mean, just looking through here, I just don't see, because you got a lot of Alabamas, Florida, LSU, Florida, Southern Cal. You get back into the 2000s, and I mean,
Yeah.
every single one of those teams were good in their right and were good for a while. I don't know if there is another team in there that did it.
Nope. So, Jonathan, yes, TCU made it to the title game. I think there were 4 teams that were outside of the top 18 in Bluechip ratio that has made it, and all 4 of them are 0-4 in winning. Making it, yeah. Winning it, not so much. The only one that's won it that's been outside of the 70s was Michigan that I've calculated. This Clemson team I think they were pretty stacked, actually, with Watson. And then Trevor Lawrence, the number 1 player the next year. They went to the title game back-to-back years with Watson at quarterback. And then Kelly Bryant year was not, the best. And then Trevor Lawrence walks in there and they go undefeated as a true freshman.
And I think that Trevor Lawrence is still looking for that magic from that year.
I mean, shoot, he's in Jacksonville. There's nothing you can do about that. He definitely is a product of his environment. And I love a lot of people point out the material playing out west. I mean, as pointed out, Jackson Dart was playing out there in the pack. Mateer played in the pack when they had all their teams, and then when they didn't have their teams too. He had some snaps behind Cam Ward a few times. So, yeah, it's, we'll see what Mateer decides to turn into. He has the opportunity to prove and shut a lot of people up. And I hope he does. We know he's working. That's the only thing I know I'm concerned about, is that we know that he is 100% working.
And the team, and here's the thing, is the team believes in him, and not just the offensive side of the ball, not just the coaches. I mean, you can tell the difference. They talk about it differently. So that, if anybody's wondering if John Mateer is going to come in here and be similar to what we had last year, I mean, that's nonsense. Now, if you say I'm a wait and see mode, you don't have to have John Mateer be a Heisman winning quarterback this year. You just don't. You need him to make decisions. How many games did we, you look back at the Tennessee game last year, are we in that game at the end if it's not for handing the ball back over play after play? Defense does a good job. And so it kind of leads to the question of, I don't know if you saw it, Jay. Somebody said, do we think the defense will be better or as good as it was last year?
Yeah, we've talked about this. Defense should be better. Better in overall numbers, mainly because the offense is going to allow them to do that.
I can kind of go both ways on this one. I think that, and I was sharing this with somebody the other day. Things I want to see is the edge rush. The edge rush has been something that from both sides of the field, have we had when's the last time we had really good, edge rushers on both sides? You go back quite a ways, to where your defensive ends were guys that were just balling out. Because I think that up the middle, you're going to be better than you were last year. I think David Stone is going to be better than what we were able to throw out there with some of the losses the past couple of years. You still have Dom Williams. You still have Jaden Jackson. You still have G-Baby. Those guys are going to continue to do what they do. Yep. If you compare our Mason with a Marvin Jones Jr., a Danny Okoye, Taylor Wine, guys like that, it is going to be good. The things that I think that separate us from a top 5 capable defense is what does our zone coverage look like? What does our edge rushers look like? And then the health of the defensive backs. Because if you get a healthy Gentry for 10 games,
Gentry healthy, right, and as we're hearing, he is a healthy Gentry is going to be a nasty Gentry. Period.
Very much. This is his livelihood on the line right now. So he is going to do everything. And Gentry's injury last year was basically they fixed the wrong thing going into the year last year. And now they got it fixed. So he's tired of the talk. He said it, he's tired of hearing it from inside the Ever Center. He's tired of hearing it from everywhere. And he knows that this is his final year. But Jay, I think that with the offense, if you can do a great complementary football, your defense coming in after a quick strike touchdown is a little bit more pumped up than after a 3-and-out. And if you can pair, a good pass rush, you can mix in the zone coverage, and you can, have a healthy Gentry and Eli. I mean, it's a top 5 defense. I have zero doubt in my mind that that's what can happen.
What I love is that this is really showing you a continuation of what BV has done just as a coach and his defensive coordinator in his career. Like when you go look at the numbers every year, his defenses get better and better. And Lemon, thank you for pointing this out. The real question is who's the leader with the loss of Stutz? Who's going to be the dude that steps up? And I'm going to be honest, man, it feels like it's probably Kip for the linebacker room with a lot of Kobe McKenzie barking orders, because he barked orders this past season. I've mentioned that before. That's the one thing that impressed me the most about him and got me excited is that he was barking orders the entire time. But then you go, besides that, secondary-wise, no Billy, but you got Robert Spears-Jennings and Peyton Bowen. I think Robert Spears-Jennings is your de facto leader there. He's the one that's going to bark all the orders out at everybody and say, hey, get your ish together and call everything out, which is, to me, that's the thing that gets me going.
And, Marvin Jones Jr. is, he's one of the oldest dudes on the team. I mean, this is a guy who was a 5-star, was almost an Oklahoma commit before Lincoln bailed. That guy, he knows what he's playing for too. And he knows that his draft stock will continue to soar if this defense plays really, really well. So you've got R. Mason, MJJ, you got the 2 linebackers. I bet you this. Gentry's more of a show me. He's going to get out there, but he gets a game or 2 under his belt, and he's going to be one of the vocal leaders too.
Yep. Gentry should be. But you've got a lot of you've got a lot of options when it comes to those that want to be vocal. But they've already all said that communication is critical for them. So our Mason Thomas said it. You had Robert Spears Jennings say it.
Yeah.
Right? So we know the linebacker room is going to be very vocal because that's the most important room in a Brent Venables defense is how the linebackers play. And I think that's what's going to be interesting in having 3 linebacker coaches, which I'm so glad that BV did that. He talked about having new coaches. That's flipping huge to have 3. Not 1, but 3 linebacker coaches this season, Coop. That's going to be probably your game-changing difference. So I'm looking at this. I pulled up the numbers on it. So when BV got to Clemson, left Oklahoma, we had an SP plus defense and defense efficiency of 4.10. Defect was at 6. DSRS was at 4. He goes to Clemson in 2012. Their defense is 54th ranked in efficiency. 54th, 44th in SP plus defense, 58th. Average of about 50. Season 2 moves up to 9, 28th range or whatnot. Third year, they were the number 1 defense in the country in efficiency. The year after that, in 15, they were number 2, 21 FP plus, but they were number 2 in efficiency, which for this team now, we passed the third year. The defense was ranked in the top 15 in efficiency overall. 10, I think number 10 in ESPN's efficiency, 15th in around the SP plus and a lot of the other metrics. I think D-Score had them at 10, but you had no offense. So, of course, your defense is doing all the work. Year after, he goes to number 2 and is consistent, and that's when they had a quarterback replacement. That's when you had Kelly going out there. Actually, you get Deshaun Watson's first year going. Then the next year, Watson gets going, and it's just maintaining defense. That's where we're going. We should be able to have a top 5 defense at the end of this season. It's no excuse. We're only playing 2 returning quarterbacks. Next season, in 26, it's going to be different because you're going to have a lot of people come back. But, yeah, this year, yeah. Should be much better in that capacity. Should be potentially that. So I'm here for it, man. The blue chip ratio says we have a chance. So I say we have a chance.
Yeah, and there's questions about the safeties going in there. I don't know if this is the last thing before we let everybody get back to their lives, but I'll tell you one thing is you're already starting to see the safety room with. I think that Robert Spears Jennings is he's the only de facto starter at this point in the safety room. I think that there will be a lot of guys that play between Hardy and Powers and Peyton Bowen. But, Peyton Bowen has, he's got a ton to prove this year because he has had, the nicks and bruises here and there. He's had a lot of, it's safe to say that we've all expected a lot more out of Peyton Bowen than we've seen at this point. And because a lot of the oh wows have been in spring training and fall camps and stuff like that. So he's getting pushed right now by both Hardy and Powers. Powers is playing a lot. Powers is proving himself to be a person that they're going to make it hard to keep him off the field. Boganowski is still Boganowski. Can he put the brains behind the athletic ability and get out there and do that? It's going to be a lot of fun watching that safety room because that's where BV's wanted it. Is you've got different guys with different peak skill sets. You look at the cheetah position between Omasigo. You get guys like I just said Powers, and then you have Kendall Dolby, who just was one of the most I guess team coveted defenders 2 years ago, and we saw what he was before he went down versus Tennessee last year.
Exactly.
This team's finally got to a spot to where you've got so many different guys that when you rotate healthy, fresh bodies out there, you don't miss a beat, and there's going to be a lot of creativity happening, and not only on the defense, but that circling it back, Jay. John Mateer said that they put a bunch of new offense in that they didn't expect to put in the playbook also. So we went from dumbing down an offense for the Pups to get through last year to installing more and more offense earlier than they expected to at this point in the offseason.
Yep. Mars, good question here. Is the transfer portal closed till next year? So it's a little weird. Let me explain. So the general transfer portal, yes, is closed until next season. The general one. But, and I'm saying this but specifically, when the settlement went down July 1st and everything was signed mid-July, there was I think it was a 30-day window. Let me see. Let me look real quick. I want to make sure I'm right.
Because you always have the situation where if a coach bails, then you got
or they get fired,
or they get fired.
Yeah. So I was right. So there's a designated student athlete rule that comes from the settlement that went into effect July 7th, and it closes August 5th. So that window is open right now. And what that window was created for was for those situations where teams were cutting players because they had to get underneath that 105 number before July 1st. But those kids are considered grandfathered in because the judge said the students did not deserve to lose their spots just because of the settlement. This should be phased out instead of an instant cutoff. So any of those kids that want to return can. And so there's a one-time transfer window that opened July 7th through August 5th. That's why you're starting to see some kids enter the portal. If the kid is marked as a designated student, the team has to mark them as that. Then they can go ahead and get back in the portal and go somewhere else. For example, we had some players that entered the portal, but they came back. We actually have some kids come back over the last
couple weeks.
Last week or so. When we looked at the roster, me and Coop went through it. You got some guys in secondary like Jocelyn Malaska, the big corner that came here from Utah. He's back on the most recent roster, so he did not leave. Let me go see when I looked at this portal stuff. Let me see who else entered the portal. I'm actually surprised that Gabe Salchuk is still here. Not gonna lie, did not expect him to be sticking around, but Gavin goes to Florida State. He sticks around, which
was it. Patterson McDonald, was he another one that was?
I think so. I don't know if he came back. I did not see him on. I didn't see him on the roster, but let me go look real quick. I will pull that up right now because I'm actually curious to if he is there. But you did have some kids that showed up, so it was weird. It's like I said, it's been weird looking at it that way. But yeah, you got a lot of players that came. I looked on there. I was like, wait, why is he still on the rock? Oh, it was the designated deal. So, Malaska's back. Reed DeQuasi, the DB that was here from Carl Albert. He played quarterback at Carl Albert before he got hurt. He's back on the roster. It was very interesting to see a lot of these players that actually made a return. So, yeah.
Nothing, I would say, bless all of them for being here. But I don't think that we're going to see any names names of note to be heading out or heading back in at this point. Mm-mm. It is, we can put that one to bed for right now.
Yeah, that's really it. But you also got your freshmen that have pulled up. You've got CJ Nixon as well as Marcus James on the defensive side of the ball. So you're getting a little bit deeper on that one. So, all right, no more questions. We're going to be out. We're going to wrap this bad boy up, put a bow on it, get up out of this place. Thank y'all, as usual, for pulling up. Hit the like button if you're new to the channel. Subscribe, rate, review. Give us 5. And we'll be back next Sunday. We'll do our SEC stuff. We'll talk about teams and We'll talk about who we think's, where we rank them and who's good, and prepare ourselves for the actual season. Because fall camp comes, for the question I might ask this, I forgot to answer it. Fall camp's in like a week and a half, like 2 weeks. We'll say 2 weeks to be safe. Fall camp's in 2 weeks, and then, hey, talk season's over. Yeah, have a good night. Happy Sunday. Perch.